Are you ready to raise the bar of health to access more love, peace, happiness, and joy? Then let's address the multidimensional aspects of our lives. It's time to wake up medicine. I'm Dr. Arlene Dijamco, and you're watching the MultiDimensional MD. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Arlene Dijamco, and welcome to episode 17 of the MultiDimensional MD. I'm going to be talking about 11 tips for a healthy relationship. And in this live stream, I'm focusing more on romantic relationships. I'm going to be talking about like other kinds of relationships in other podcasts, but today it's about romantic relationships. And I am not like a trained relationship expert, but I have been in a very loving relationship with my husband. We've been married for 18 years. And we've actually been together since 1994. So I had to like think about it earlier. I was like, oh, wow, that's 26 years. So that's over half my life. So I think that's, I've learned a lot through that. And we met in college. And so we actually really grew up together. And I learned through the relationship, things that worked and things that, maybe didn't. And we learned together. And one of the first things in any healthy relationship, it is all about self-awareness and consciousness. Because it's really, what do we all want? We all want to be seen and heard. We spend our whole lives just waiting to be like seen and heard. And Dr. Shefali Tsabary, how am I saying that right? Tsabary coined the term conscious intimacy. And this is where you're really, know yourself fully. You are aware of yourself. You love yourself. And there is a reason why opposites attract. It's because we are always seeking to feel whole, especially if we don't feel balanced. We want to feel whole. And so when opposites attract, it's like we're filling in those needs for each other. However, when you don't have the self-awareness and you don't already feel whole on your own, then it's not quite sustainable because neither one of you will ever feel completely right or completely whole or balanced because you're always seeking externally for something to fulfill you. But if you come into a relationship and you know yourself and you feel balanced as yourself, not feeling the need for the other to complete you, it's like you have more love to bring in to the relationship. And so in doing so, then you have two people that really love each other and can come together and feel whole and more balanced together. Number two is really to have honesty in the relationship. And, I was thinking about this earlier, and it's honesty in the little things and the big things, because if we get used to being dishonest about the little things, then it seems so much easier to be dishonest about big things. And, sometimes it really starts with being honest with yourself, because if you're feeling like you have to like hide things, then there's like a judgment there. I mean, okay, so I'm thinking about something like little, like, okay, you had some fast food or you ate some chocolate and you don't want your significant other to find out. My husband has done that. and who hasn't snuck chocolate every once in a while? So, but then there's that judgment. So it's really coming from more a place of self-judgment of like, oh, I feel bad for doing this, or I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble, or I don't want someone to judge me. So I think it's not a great habit to get into. And also being honest about finances, even like little things. I have said to the girls before, like, oh, okay, just don't tell your dad, we're going to buy this thing. But and the truth of it is that he's going to see it. He's going to see the bills and everything. And so I know that. And so, but when I was thinking over it, I was like, it is good to be just honest with even those things, those little things, because then especially if you find that you're not being honest or the other person is not being honest about something much bigger, like hiding large sums of money or lying about what you were doing with your time, then that's really not a great foundation to build a relationship. So honesty is a really big thing, and it starts with being honest with yourself. The third thing is really have a sense of shared dreams, because you're building this life together, and if there are things that are really important to you, then it would be great if you could share those things. It doesn't mean that like everything you're going to share, but there are going to be some certain things that you kind of have to be on board with and aligned with, such as building a family. If you want to have kids, then you have to be aligned with those kinds of goals and those kinds of dreams for your life. If you want to be like a world traveler, then that's something too. You have to decide like, okay, is that something to do together, or is it okay with one person like going off and doing things on their own? It really depends on like how you divide your time, or where you want to live, what you want to do in your life. So it's being clear about those and being able to talk about these things that are important in our lives. And it's having fun, because art and creativity and fun and laughter are ways that our soul just expresses itself. And making time to have fun with each other is one of the best gifts that you could give each other. And especially when times are very difficult right now, it can be easy to like not have time for fun. And so we actually have to create the time and prioritize and be able to bring these aspects into our lives, and making time for each other and valuing that time together. So I've been talking a lot about art and creativity and getting to that flow state where time and space just seems to melt away. And this is something that would be great to do together. And in creativity, I talk about it in a really expansive sense, because really anything can be creative, from making dinner together to going on a nature walk and exploring, to creating art together. And I know one of the things I've been wanting to do with my husband is to sign up for these hammer therapy, blacksmithing classes that we had talked about in the Healing Through Art Summit. So it's really prioritizing in your life that you want to spend this time together. Number 5 is having equality in the relationship and respect for each other as individuals. Again, thinking about like your dreams and aspirations, it'd be good if like the big things are like really aligned, but then you're also individuals. So you also need time to yourself, whether it's like you want to just lay on the couch and read a book or go out with friends. I know that I learned that really early on. When we first got married, I was like, I need my own girlfriend time. So I need to go out with my friends. And it wasn't always about being with my husband 24/7. And that's totally okay. And my husband, he has his regular soccer time with his friends, and that's totally okay. I don't play soccer, and we don't have to be doing everything together all the time. I think that's been brought up a lot, like with quarantine, because no matter what, there have been so many challenges where it's like people have been together so much in this quarantine time, and people are getting like very tense and edgy and feeling like they need their space. So it's like, how can you have the fun we were talking about before, and then also create time and space for yourself? How can you do that when you're still like you're in this like very close proximity together for a very extended period of time? So going on like 7 months now. And you can do that, but it's also choosing it and prioritizing it and recognizing it. So it's that self-awareness again. So recognizing that you want to prioritize time together, and you also want to prioritize some time for yourself to recuperate and to nourish yourself in a way that you do it differently than when you're together. And that is really a huge part, I think, of a healthy relationship. Number 6. Now, I saw this from Lisa Bilyeu, who's the founder of Women of Impact and Impact Theory. And she had a post and it said, don't use insecurities as weapons. And I think that is so important. I know that is such an easy place to go to for people, and for especially if you're arguing, that you start to poke at each other's insecurities. But it's really important to be mindful if you start to do that, and to maybe retract like what you're saying, because we are here to uplift each other, not to tear each other down. And if you start getting in the habit of using insecurities as weapons, it is going to really create a rift in the relationship. And so it's recognizing for yourself, like, what are your own insecurities? And then also recognizing for your significant other, what are their insecurities? And remember, everybody just wants to be seen, felt, and heard. And so when you, like, say you have some issues like body image issues, and your significant other was like poking at you like, oh, you really could be more fit, or maybe you should start watching what you eat. I mean, that feels really terrible. And if you were the person doing that to your significant other, then yeah, that is a way to, like, you're doing the opposite of uplifting each other. So if that ever happens, then definitely being quick to apologize. 7, it is us. I think about it as us against the problem, not as against each other. Because life will always have with it its ups and downs. And the more that you can look at them as you're approaching them as a team, instead of trying to blame the other person for them, it's going to be much more fruitful and much more efficient. And like you're not going to feel like you're alone in doing that. So always think about us versus the problem. And again, this is like that every piece of these 11 tips is all based on self-awareness and consciousness, because you have to be conscious of, like, okay, what is the problem? What is the issue at hand? Whether it's the finances, or it's difficulties with the kids, it's where you live, or the quarantine. So it's like, how can we approach this together and create more ease in it? Or how can we innovate together to problem solve together, instead of saying like, oh, if you only would do this, then things would be better. So, because that is always outside seeking, like external seeking, like the other person will fix it for you. And it's never going to be like that. It is always from internal. And so if you see that, like, okay, I can help in this situation, and we can help in this situation, we as a unit, as a team, and that feels much more unified than divisive. So us against the problem, we're not tearing each other down. 90-second pause. So this is so great. This was something Dr. Jill Bolt-Taylor, who is a Harvard brain scientist, and she came up with this 90-second pause. It's simply to allow, like, anytime you have like heated emotions, intense emotions, we literally have this chemical reaction go through us. And so if you just pause for 90 seconds, then you give yourself time to settle and to breathe. And in those 90 seconds, what you want to do is to be able to name how you're feeling, to label your emotion, because just by doing that, it helps to calm down the amygdala, the alarm system in your brain. And those chemicals will start to like settle down. And also to breathe while you're doing it. So you're naming the feeling, you're breathing, and not having any judgment on how you're feeling. So that's the trick, right? It's like that you can sit and feel and be aware of an emotion that may be uncomfortable and be okay with it. Starts to be like that Jedi Knight trick. Like, I'm okay feeling uncomfortable. 90 seconds, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to give myself time to calm down. So within 90 seconds, the emotion can start to shift. However, if it doesn't start to shift, then you also need to be aware of your thoughts, because if your thoughts are continually like playing the scene over and over, or the words, what was said to you over and over, then it's like you're getting re-exposed to it again. And so you'll have to start to shift your thoughts so that you're not continuously like playing this scene and intensifying that emotion. Because if you did nothing and just sat, breathed, were aware of your emotions, were okay with how you felt, it would pass. With time, all things pass and will shift. And, I learned this actually pretty early on in the relationship. I don't know if I actually followed it all the time. Actually, let me rephrase that. I definitely did not follow that rule all the time. But I know that even when I was dating my husband in college, sometimes if we started arguing, maybe we're on the phone, and he would say, you know what, let's talk later, just to give a chance to calm down. And I was never used to anyone saying that. And so, I couldn't do anything because he was choosing to like, okay, pause and we'll just regroup. And almost always when we got back together later, my own emotions had like completely calmed down, because I realized it was like just reacting to the moment and it wasn't as big a deal as it seemed at the time. And then we had a much more reasonable conversation. So I learned that from him. So thank you. It is a practice, right? So you may not always do that. I definitely don't, but it's a practice. There was another thing. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, R.I.P., the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she said one of the keys to her lifelong relationship was sometimes it helps to have a deaf ear. So, I had to think about that, because I was like, I don't know if I like that. Like, what do you mean? Just ignore it? And that's not really what she meant, but it was, I think, to me, it sort of meant like that 90-second pause. Like, you don't have to react the moment something happens every single time, because it will be hard to maintain relationships that way. And she said that this really helped her with her relationship with her husband, but also relationships with the other justices. So I was like, wow, that's really cool, because, they disagreed on like some big issues, and she was yet able to have like friendships. It's like, that's amazing. So to have selective hearing sometimes, and I think that I don't like, to me, that doesn't mean like totally ignore that you are forgetting that doesn't even exist in the person, but it's choosing to see like what you feel is like positive and that light and love in a person, versus like always focusing on the negative. And I feel like our brains are kind of primed to pick out the negative. And so it's being more conscious of like, I want to see the positive in this person, because there's so much, once I start to look at different relationships, even in my life, I know we're talking about romantic relationships, but even in extending to other relationships and friendships, there may be things that you really disagree about with friends, family members, but then there's also very loving things. And so I think of choosing to see that light and love to help nourish those relationships and feeling that oneness, the unity, versus like always like tearing down with the negative and what you don't agree with. Number 9, sincere apologies. What is a sincere apology? Because how many times have you said, or maybe you've heard like, I'm sorry, but you didn't think it actually was sincere? Or maybe you said like, yeah, but what are you sorry for? So remember, everyone wants to be seen and understood. So in order to have a sincere apology, it is all about awareness and acknowledgement. And so acknowledge that you, one, understand the situation. So what the person is concerned about. And if you state it, like this is a known thing, just being able to state back that you understand really is comforting to a person, because then they hear that you understand, versus like making assumptions that you don't understand me and I don't think that you're actually sorry. So what's the situation? Acknowledge what's the damage that's been done. I'm sorry. I realize my behavior, my words are out of control. I'm sorry that I hurt you and other people. Number 3, taking responsibility. So what is your responsibility? Like, it is my responsibility, I'm just making up an example. Like in this situation, it's my responsibility to be a good role model for the kids and also for the family. Number 4, say what you're going to do about it. What will shift, and how are you going to make amends? It could be like, I'm going to apologize to the people I hurt. I'm going to, next time, if things get heated, this is what I'm going to do about it. Maybe I'll take a 90-second pause instead of like reacting to the situation. So I think that, a lot of times we use apologies more flippantly, and we don't really, we don't use those components of a sincere apology. So next time that you have to apologize, like, consider that. And next time, like someone says, you feel like someone's not being sincere, then I guess you'll know why, and you'll see that for yourself too. But understand that we all make mistakes. And so to be able to be very gracious with apologies, because you want someone to be able to do that for you too. So we really have to treat people how we want to be treated. And this is, I'm not talking about like situations where you're unsafe and there are clear like choices that you need to make in terms of like creating safety for yourself. But I'm talking about like more just like arguments and things where it's not violent. That's going to be a whole other conversation. But anyway, take those. Acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge for a sincere apology. Number 10, just be nice, be kind. No name calling and dragging up all the insecurities again and stuff from the past. So if you find that you do go there, then awareness, right? You did something, maybe you were just overreacting to the situation. It's okay, we've all done it. But to acknowledge and be kind and make your sincere apology. Kindness goes a long way for every kind of interaction in your whole life. And we could all use a lot more kindness in the world right now. So start from your home. Number 11 is to be the love. It starts with like loving yourself, and that vibration of love is one of like harmony and oneness. And you really have to feel that in yourself first before being able to feel that as a couple, as a really healthy relationship. And I had this quote from Oprah. She said, I actually found this from my quote book in high school. So in the 90s, I had written this down. It says, all we have for sure is the moment. That's why I never hold back genuine expressions of love anymore. Besides, can you think of any gift that is more valuable than that? And so I think about this, especially in these times where things are very transient, changing. What we knew as the old norm is gone and shifting. There's many people that have crossed over. So it's when I think about like not holding back on genuine expressions of love, it's like we don't really have the time to waste. And you don't know when someone is going to, like, it's going to be their time, because I know that everyone's concerned with COVID right now, but it could be a car accident. It could be any kind of accident or an illness. And so you never know when that happens. And it really is true. All we have is a moment. And When I was reading that quote book, then I was talking to my brother because I had written in there also the last words that my grandfather had said to me, and then he recalled like the last words that he had said to him, and it was just like, I love you, goodbye. And when I review those things, you start to feel like how powerful like the moment and these relationships are. And I know sprinkled in here more than just the romantic relationships, but these things just apply for all aspects of our life. And the more we can feel them, acknowledge them, hear them, see them, trust them for ourselves, the more we love ourselves, then the healthier our relationships are going to be. So that's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for being here. It's Dr. Arlene Dijamco, the MultiDimensional MD. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Next week, I'm going to be talking to my friend Maudie Fowler again, and we will announce the topic before then. Take care. Lots of love to you.